making sure your process stays in control. Now, there are some things that you can do to try to make your process stay in control, to sustain it. So one thing is that you can have some kind of monitors. So how are you going to monitor the improvement? How are you going to watch it over time to make sure that it sustains? How are you going to maybe have an alert come on if you have like a visual control that says this is no longer working, there is a problem here? If you're looking at the time that your equipment is down, maybe the minutes or hours that your equipment is down, then monitoring the equipment, we'll be looking at that downtime measure each month. How many minutes or hours is your piece of equipment down? Let's monitor that. If that suddenly jumps up, we need to take action. We can't let that go by, and we need to know that that's happening. Now, if you have visual controls like lights or something that can help with that, that's going to make it easier for you to sustain that improvement. The other thing that you can do is audits or inspections. So if some of your changes are something that can be audited, such as 5S is a good chance to do a weekly audit. It's awesome to rotate that ownership of the audit, but you can have somebody each week go through an audit or an inspection that says, okay, this workplace doesn't have any clutter. Okay, the closet is the way that it should be. The scissors are in the shadow board where they belong. The other thing that you can do is you can assign some of those expectations, right? Be really clear with people about what you expect them to do. You don't want to lose all of that hard work that you put into making this improvement. Now, the other thing that you can do is develop a control plan. So in this control plan, what you can look at is really specific in terms of how this process will be sustained. So first, what changed? What's the process that we're looking at? Then you're going to want to identify what are the specification limits. So what are your expectations for that process? This can be hard when we're looking at things that are not manufacturing focused, right? So I think it's really important for us to appreciate that whether or not we're in an assembly line or in an office, there are specification limits, there are expectations. So maybe what we're looking at is the number of days it took to process an invoice. Now for that, how many days did it used to take? Maybe it used to take 15 and we got it back down to 10. So our specification is 10 days. We don't want it to go over 10 days, perhaps. That's the limit that we're setting on it. What are the materials and the tools that your teams need to make sure that they can get to that number or that they can monitor that number? Do you have something in place that sends an alert or identifies whenever an invoice takes more than 10 days? Now, when you do have an invoice take more than 10 days, what action do you expect your team member to take? Is it specific that they will share that at the next team meeting, that they will then research it, that they will highlight it in some way? How will you react when that process moves out of control? So be really specific about what your expectations are and who owns that. If at all possible, when assigning ownership, there should be one owner. And that one owner should be assigned to a position title. It should not be assigned to an individual. Because let's say you assign it to Samantha. When Samantha leaves, now whose is it? No, you want it associated with that position title. So administrative assistant 2 for this department. That's more specific to say that's an expectation of that position to have this action, right? So you want to be very specific about what you're asking people to do and own. When you do an improvement project, your project is not done until you've completed some kind of control plan. So it's really important that you develop this to ensure that your project sustains.